Confused with cables? Befuddled with braids? Join me and learn how to use this cable needle. I'm going to show you how to knit this cabled headband. It's a fantastic free pattern by Patricia from the Morning Whisper. Have a look at the other patterns from the Morning Whisper. They're all gorgeous. It's a very simple introduction to cabling. It's really simple, it's really fun and really addictive. So let's cast on. So have a look at this lovely cabled braided headband. To create this cable, all that we really do is that we knit stitches out of order. And I'll show you how to do that. So it starts off with just a cast on and some knit and purl stitches, and I've started the pattern already. So you cast on 16 stitches, and you'll get this from the pattern, and we'll put a link to the download there for you. It has a little edging, little knit and purl, and then a bit of stocking stitch. So I'm going to show you, we're going to start the first cable. So I'm using a little circular needle here, only because it happened to be sitting in it was the right needle size. You can use any needles you like, just use straight needles. These are 6mm with some paint box chunky. So I'm going to start this row. Now following the pattern, we do slip one and then purl. And now we're going to start with our cable. Now when you see a cable instruction, it's either listed as CB and a number or CF and a number. And this is the total number of stitches you're going to work for your cable. Now this one here, the first instruction is CBF, and that means cable 8 forward. So that means we're working on the next 8 stitches, and we're going to halve that. So the first 4 stitches of the cable I'm going to put onto my cable needle. So I'm just going to slide on 1, 2, 3, 4 of that 8, and then I'm going to just let that on the cable needle fall forward. So I'm going to bring the first 4 stitches into the front of my work, so F for forward, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave these on the cable needle, knit the next 4 stitches, and then come back and knit these second. So I'm going to whiz over here, knit these 4 stitches. So this is what I mean by knitting them out of order. So we've got 4 stitches knitted there on the needle, and we've got 4 on the cable needle. And then I'm going to go back and knit these 4 stitches off the cable needle. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you see what's happened here, and it looks a bit of a mess at the moment with the first one, but you can see that the stitches have twisted. So I've brought the 4 stitches from over here in front of the 4 behind. And this creates this effect. And even though it looks a bit funny at the moment, in a couple of rows, you'll see how it works out. Then I'm going to knit another 4 stitches here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then purl and knit at the end, which is following the pattern, a purl and a knit. Now, looks a bit funny, don't panic. We turn around to the back. Now this next row, I'm following the pattern now, slip 1 and then knit 1. And then I'm going to purl 12 stitches along the back of the cable. 1, 2. I'm purling 12 stitches across the back of the cable, and then knit 1 and purl 1. So let's turn the work round. So you can see right at the beginning of this cable, and I know it looks funny, that the first cable's happening is where we've knitted the stitches out of order and it's starting to push one way. There are 5 rows in between each cable turn. So I'm going to go and do this next 5 rows and meet you back here for the next cable twist. See you in a minute. Right, so we're now ready to do our next cable row. So see what's happened here. I've twisted my cable with the cable needle. Then I've worked 5 rows and I'm coming up to the 6th row now, and I'm going to do the cable, but this time working the other way. So if you see on our little sample here, I've come up here, now I'm going to cable that way to start the twist. So I'm going to start off, slip the first stitch and then a purl, because that's the little pattern I'm following. Now I'm going to knit the next 4 stitches completely normally. And then we're going to get our cable needle and do our next little cable move. And this time the instruction says C8B, and that means we're going to cable them at the back of the work. So here is the back of the work, here is the front of the work. So I'm going to take the first 4 of those 8 stitches and take them to the back of the work, put them on my cable needle, 1, 2, 3, 4, and this time hold them at the back of the work. Then I'm going to knit these 4. So remember, this is all created by knitting out of sequence. So I'm going to then knit the next 4 over here, leaving the 4 on the cable needle. There we are, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we go back to the 4 that you've got on your cable needle at the back here, and I'm going to knit these. Now this is why it's very handy to have one of these cable needles with a dip, because it does actually just sort of, they don't fall off and it just sits nicely at the back there without you worrying. And then we just slide the stitches up to the top and knit these 4 stitches off the cable needle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then right at the end here I've got a purl stitch and a knit stitch, which is just a little border on this pattern. And look, already you can see our cable is starting to form. Now at this point we've got another 5 rows, and then I'll meet you back to do our next cable row. Right, so here we are ready to do the next cable row. So in any cable pattern, you'll find that there'll be a few rows of sort of plain pattern, then the cable twist, then some plain pattern, then the cable twist. So we're coming up now to the next cable row, and the cable is going to be on this side. So we've come that way, we're coming up this way. So let's have a look. We're going to slip 1 and purl. Now this time we're going to cable forward. So I'm going to put the 8 stitches, remember the instruction is C8F, so it's cable 8 forward. So I'm going to take half of that, the first 1, 2, 3, 4, and then bring the cable needle forward, so that's in the front of your work. And then I'm going to knit these stitches first, 4 over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to go back and knit these 4 from the cable needle, so that's going to pull them over here. So that's how we twist the stitches. So just slide them up to the cable needle. There's a lot of sort of manhandling, but it's very straightforward to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can see that this has pulled the stitches over, so we've got the next bit of cable happening. So then I'm going to knit to the end here, and then a purl and a knit, and there you can see the cable is taking off. So this is our cable forward side and the cable back side. So I'm going to knit another 6 rows, and we come back to do the next cable that will come this way. Right, here we are, ready for our next cable row. So I've knitted the next bit of the pattern, and now we're going to work a cable back row. So I'll start off here. So we've got slip one and purl, which is at the beginning of the pattern. Then I'm going to knit the next 4. 3, 4, and then the next 4 rows, next 4 stitches, I'm going to put 4 stitches onto the cable needle. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to take that to the back of the work. So that's at the back. So we're going to knit these 4 first, and then come back and knit off the cable needle. So I knit, reaching over, 4 stitches, and then if you just tilt the work up a bit, there are our 4 stitches on the cable at the back, cable needle at the back, and I'm going to just twist it round and knit the 4 stitches from the cable needle, which is our C8B cable back instruction. And then we've got 2 stitches left here, a purl and a knit. Now let's have a look. So the cable back is taking us to the right, the cable forward is taking us to the left. And let me just show you the back. The back of cabling, you can just see the little holes where our stitches have just been knitted out of order. So that is how you work a basic cable. Right, so when you've knitted your headband, we're going to sew it up so that it's a nice circular ear warmer. Well, this is just actually a headband. You could make it wider if you wanted to for an ear muff. But so I'm going to put the 2 right sides together, and we're going to use the tails to sew up the seams using some mattress stitch. So I'm going to thread my yarn needle here, and then if you hold together your 2 seams, we're going to use a mattress stitch. So you're just going to sew under these stitches here, backwards and forwards, and this gives us a really nice invisible join, kind of invisible. So I'm going to take the first stitch underneath this stitch here, and then coming from the other side, I'm going to go under those 2 and under these 2, and we go back again, underneath the stitch and underneath the stitch, underneath that stitch and underneath that stitch. So you're matching the stitches as you go along, back and forth. And that's the last one there. And then I'm just going to weave this end in a little bit so that we can make sure that's nice and secure, and snip it off. And then I'm just going to stitch this end in as well. So I'll just turn that round. So that's just a nice flat seam. And there is your cabled headband. Perfect gift. I love cables. I hope you've enjoyed that. They're so easy to knit, and it's just so satisfying to knit some texture. Tell me what you've done with cables. I'd love to know. Put a comment in and tell me what sort of cables you've knitted, or if you're going to try some new cables, or if this is the first one that you've done. Tell me all about it, and I'll see you next time to learn something new. Do I look like Rudolph? Oh! No. I can't remember what I said.
Yeah, me neither.